7 right now for Puma, and you can bet he's going to get a couple more right here. This is the end of the game. This is Gravitas in their death throes, and Order have...
No eye contact, like you don't want me around. Baby, can you see me? Baby, can you see me? If you don't call me, I don't wanna be awake for this. Trying my eyes and it's for the best. I fucking hate when we go to shit. Pull out my eyes, look at me. Fucking pray this is all a dream. Turn my reality apart at the seams. Pull out my eyes, can you look at me? Baby, I've been begging you for weeks. Come on, make me feel something, please. You're making me feel so weak. Making me feel so weak. I was feeling so background, yeah. Didn't wanna make sense. I was feeling so helpless, yeah. That was who you were. Now I'm picking it up and I'm putting it down. Fuck around, how did you control it? Yeah, how did you control it? I don't know what I even want. The pain of placing is too much. How you do this shit, wanna rip on my guts. How you do this shit and say I wanted you to. Do the plans that I fought for besides you. How you wreck my brain and split yourself in two. I don't know, tell me what's the truth. Pull out my eyes, look at me. Fucking pray this is all a dream. Turn my reality apart at the seams.
Lay your worries on the floor. Leave your heartache at the door. 'Cause baby, you need it. Yeah, yeah. Yeah. Now take a step away from the glass walls anyway.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the DoorDash LCO for the final game of the night, and it's going to be a banger piece taking on Dire Wolves. And as far as I'm aware, it seems like Draft Lord is actually about to teach us the art of the draft. So jump on over to Twitter. I think he's going to release a novel on that one. Looks like it's going to be good. He's been working on that for a couple of weeks now, maybe even a couple of years, but only dropping at us right now. I wonder if we are going to see Peace win this in the draft. That's the question, Rusty.
I mean, it's always a question we have to ask when the Draft Lord himself is competing on the game, right? Now, easier said than done against the resurging Dire Wolves, so we'll see exactly how that pans out, but you've got to have some faith in the Draft Lord.
You certainly do. Now, speaking of resurgence, Jordan, you're making a resurgence on the cast as you are going to be casting this final game. Are you excited?
Yeah, I am going to be casting this final game. I am excited. Actually, this is the game that I've been looking forward to all night long, Mac. I mean, Dire Wolves have been looking a lot better than what they did, I'd say, even almost this time last week, to be honest. They won 2 on the tail end of the first Super Week, so they're looking much better. Peace coming through with a couple of roster changes. I'm sure we'll talk about those as we do go through this pre-show. So by all accounts, this should be the game of the night.
Certainly should be. Now, speaking of roster changes, let's have a look at Peace to kick things off here. Rusty, tell me, what is different about this roster? Because I can't figure it out.
It's the Bionic Man in the top lane who's going to be starting today. It's Tally coming back towards Oceanic League of Legends. Now, Tally, if anyone doesn't know him, where have you been? If you don't actually know who he is, then he was a very prolific Oceanic player who does have titles under his belt with Legacy. Went over to the Golden Guardians, I believe, in the North American Academy League for about 6 months and then did return back home. Tally is definitely a very good player, strong mechanical player, but has years of experience under his belt. I believe he was just starting his career back when I was retiring, so very similar timings, from the same team, in fact. So I'm very excited to see him return and continue that legacy beyond.
I wonder, does anyone know if he's going to be playing from the team house as well, or is he somewhere else? Do you have that info?
No idea.
I wasn't asking
We'll
you,
probably
Jordan.
find
You,
out
of
on
course,
cams.
don't know the players on a personal scale like this man here.
He's
All
a
right? We have royalty.
Queenslander.
We've got
who-
we've got a mid-lord interview,
Nah.
so we might be able to ask him.
Oh.
I'm going to say he's not in the house, but we'll see.
All right, well, let's just assume that he's not for now. Anyway, let's talk the other side of the fence. Of course, we have Direwolves to have a quick chat about. They certainly turned a few heads for the better last week, as they are going to be led by Shock there only as well, having a bit of a scorcher on volley, and Claire doing wonders in the top lane. But is that what's winning them the games, Jordan?
Well, look, to be honest, Direwolves, they're doing those videos about who's capping and who's gapping. I can tell you who's gapping at the moment. It's Only. He's been having some pretty crazy performances over the last couple of games. I'll be keeping my eyes peeled quite rightly on the jungle, because we do obviously have Babip on the other side of the field, which will be a bit of a handful for Only. I think, we obviously are quite eager actually to also see that top lane matchup between Claire and Tally, two sort of veterans of the Oceanic scene, so that should be quite a fun one as well. There's a lot of storylines for this matchup, not only to mention the fact that, between these two teams, how many series they played against each other. Last split, it was obviously Peace that knocked Direwolves out of playoffs, so they want to find themselves a little bit of revenge there as well. I'm really looking forward to this one. I think Direwolves have been showing some great form lately, but going up against this Peace roster is going to be a tough ask.
It's just going to be a rough one. Although, with the new change to the roster, there could be a bit of, I don't know. Is it going to be a honeymoon period, or is it going to be a little bit rocky? That's what I see it. It's either one or the other. There's never any in between. There's never any it looks all right. No one says that. They say it looks good, looks terrible. Get the other guy back. What's going on? Lisa wasn't doing such a bad job. Put Appy back in the top lane. Who bloody knows? Anyway, we'll see if any of those statements are mentioned after this game, of course, and we'll see how it goes. But someone that we want to see again is Nat. Let's bring Nat back into the conversation. What are you doing? Huh?
Now I'm really far to my left, to the right of the screen. Sorry.
Just don't need to say it. You just need to quickly.
yeah. What if I go this way? Then we can just pretend we're leaning on each other or something.
We could become one person.
Oh, wait. Where are we?
Too far.
Five head.
Oh,
Almost. Almost. I feel like I've derailed the broadcast.
Mac, your head's too small, bro.
doesn't work.
Rusty needs to bring his
Anyway,
we'll work on that one. Sorry,
time for an interview.
There is. I got so distracted. Maybe I can get the two players that I'm about to interview to do that, because I am going to be talking to Halo and Guncrab. Thank you both so much for joining me. Halo, I want to start and ask probably the most obvious question. With this roster change coming over on Peace, how is the team atmosphere and how have practice and scrims been going for you guys?
It's definitely been pretty good. I think having Tally on the team, even more experience and another sort of leader to guide us. I'm pretty confident we'll take the split now. Last week was a bit of a trial week. We didn't know what was going on really, but now that we've got this roster, I'm 95% sure we'll take the split.
Wow, that's pretty confident. I'm very excited for you guys. The other bit that I wanted to ask is, with Appy now going in the bot lane and Tally being in the top lane, is this the pathway to open for some new champs to come out from you guys?
Yes, there's definitely some spice we've been trying out. So maybe you'll see that today. I'm not sure.
Oh, I look forward to that one. Guncrab, you have rejoined us, thankfully.
Yep.
And I want to ask how scrims and practice been going for the Direwolves group.
Pretty good. We're kind of riding the momentum of our like 2-1 score from last week, and I'd say this week of scrim has been pretty productive and really confident going up against Peace.
Do you still have that confidence even though there has been that roster change? Like, is that something that you had kind of been preparing for, or it doesn't affect you at all?
We haven't specifically prepared for it, but we're still confident regardless of like what roster they use. Yeah.
And what has been the main focus for the Direwolves team?
Probably to get me a DoorDash voucher. That's about it.
I love it. I love hearing how much the DoorDash voucher does mean to the players. But thank you both so much for joining me, and good luck in the game tonight.
Solid salute there coming out from Halo. Now, let's see if they can live up to their own expectations as we do head one step towards the game. Let's have a quick look at the predictions and who's gone for who here. Who's going to believe in the Wolves on the come up? Oh, Rusty! There you go. You got your points back. That's what I'm excited about. But also, Direwolves, huh? Tell me, why?
Yeah, I do think that, like, while this may be considered an upgrade for Peace, the last time we said that, it never proved itself to be true, and I think this is an investment for the playoffs, not for the immediate future. And beyond that, just specifically for Direwolves and why I have faith in them, I think that Shock found some really good form, and that only has had very good form most of this split. And I think those two working together is more than enough power to actually contend with Peace right now. And then, you know, the inconsistencies of a new roster coming together, they should be able to do enough to win.
Okay, now, Jordan, you want to do your point? You know, talk about the opposite of everything that... Oh, okay, we got a couple of Direwolves picks here. We've got more Direwolves than Peace. I'm actually kind of confused about that one.
We could be even split
me
depending
too.
on where Twitch goes.
You never know, Mac. You might end up actually being a Direwolves predictor yourself. We will find
Very
out
true.
fairly shortly. But to answer your question, I mean, I think there is a bit of recency bias involved with this discussion around Direwolves. Obviously, they did win a couple of games towards the end of last week, so they did look very good in those. But I still have enough faith that Peace has been a little bit more of a consistent force over the course of the week, and obviously over the course of the season as well. Now, there is obviously that discussion point of Tally coming back. Is that going to affect them in the short term? Maybe it is, but theoretically speaking, you bring Tally back. He's been playing a lot. He's looking good. You'd expect he's going to come in and do pretty good things in the top lane, especially up against Claire. I think across the rest of the board, the Peace roster actually has the chops. Even Appy moving into support. We know he's played support back in previous teams as well. So let's not forget the fact that Peace is looking like one of the top contenders this split, and you know, give him a vote of confidence. At least as far as I'm concerned, I think they've got the chops to beat Direwolves, who have looked inconsistent, with the exception being last week. Now, I will grant you they looked very good last week, but I'm still thinking that there are some inconsistencies there for Direwolves. So that's my 2 cents.
Well, you think the players have the chops. If you want some chops to yourself, !DoorDash in chat. I'm sure there's something on there that can deliver you some roasted chops of whatever kind. Any kind of chops, lamb chops, meat chops, chicken chops. Anyway, let's get into the game because Peace and Direwolves going to be a banger. Here we are.
Oh man, this is going to be a good one, Rusty. Been waiting all night for the big match, Peace versus Direwolves. It's a grudge match through from Split 1 as well. And we do have, of course, Tally coming back into Oceanic League of Legends. Up in that top lane, up against Claire. It's going to be an exciting matchup here. We do have the LeBlanc ban instantly through from Peace, so giving that respect over to Shock from the outset.
Yeah, LeBlanc's a pretty prolific mid laner right now for a lot of teams, so I'm not surprised to see this rise up more and more in terms of priority. And I do think that this is the second time in a row Shock's had it banned away from him after his big game win against Pensanet.gg. I believe Gravitas also considered that one. Senna going to go with that as well. Now, we've mentioned this before for Direwolves, but the Senna pick opens up a whole can of worms for Direwolves. Down in that 2v2, Gunkrab is one of the most willing players to do the abstract, you know, to play the unexpected, and was also, you know, the person who volunteers to be the support for the team while Cupcake was busy with his studies. So you've got all of these things that add up and say Senna is kind of like the ultimate ban of choice for Peace. In saying that, you're looking at like the Lulu, the Karma, the Gwen, the Viego, Lee Sin, you know, a bunch of really good options still up and standing that are only now starting to be banned away.
Waiting to see whether or not we are going to see that Viego get banned on through here from Direwolves, as has been customary for the red sides today. Not the case, and that could be a gamble given the fact that we don't typically see a lot of Viego coming through for Peace. It's not a champion that we've seen from Babip. In the past, it has been Appy up in the top lane that's taken the Viego, if anything. And obviously, he's not playing top lane in this game, so maybe there's a little bit of a gamble there coming through from Direwolves. It seems to have paid off. The Ziggs is the one that is invested into early on in the piece, for Peace. No pun intended. Now, an interesting choice for me, actually, to see Ziggs here, because I think I said this last week, that it didn't seem like the kind of champion that Violet would really want to get onto. But, I mean, outside of it going into mid, there aren't really too many options for it. So is this going to be Halo on the Ziggs, or are we headed for a bot lane Violet Ziggs?
The funny thing with Ziggs, right, is now that it is at the forefront of meta for bot lane, is you don't have a choice. Like, it's not an option of we don't play the Ziggs, you have to play the Ziggs, or suddenly your drafting gets really awkward. That's just like the downside, perhaps, of the way the meta works in the first place. I'd have to assume that Violet is going to be the one playing this unless it gets flexed towards mid lane. And, of course, an option, but we'll see where it chooses to go. Nevertheless, these picks from Direwolves, I think Akali is a very good choice for Direwolves in general. We've mentioned this a few times in the past, but the flexibility of Claire and Shock to play mid lane and top lane champions respectively means that any flex pick between those two is huge. And the Xin Zhao, I think, is good for only, but this does leave open the Viego, right, for the other side. So I am most curious about, you know, they're not prioritizing the Viego at all. They're freely giving that over to Peace.
I wonder where that is going to be headed. Again, if it goes into jungle, that'll be the first time for Babip to play at this split. The same for Halo in mid, and obviously we have yet to see what we're going to get from Tally. Might have some ideas from seeing him previously.
Cuppers!
All that jazz, but still no idea. Obviously, you'll be happy to see the Bard coming through here.
Yeah, no, I am very excited. Cupcake on one of his signature picks here as well. So this to me is like a +1, right? Like the fact that you've chosen the Bard into the Nautilus isn't exactly winning. You can do fine in that lane, but Cupcake playing his Bard is a big deal. Because if you think back to past matches, there's been Cupcake playing in competitions where Bard becomes like the signature. Like, if you're not picking Bard in this composition, you're maybe losing the game type of priority because he is so good at the champion. All right, so
Polybear the ban away from Direwolves. Camille taken away by Peace. So targeting jungle and top so far. Kai'Sa also gone. Which indicates to me that Direwolves are still considering that this could actually be a flex into the mid lane for the Ziggs.
Yeah, for sure. I think Ziggs actually quite good into Akali if you're able to get that matchup in mid as well. There's definitely things that can kill you, yes, but the flexibility of Ziggs is one of the benefits of it and does force a ban like this. And I think you are right in concept, right? Like I don't necessarily look at Violet and think that is synonymous with Ziggs gameplay. It's just that the meta's going to kind of force him in that direction. And I think if Peace can draft without it having to go bottom, that may be a win for them.
Ezreal, the selection for Direwolves, so that's going to be Gun Crab. We confirmed the bot lane. Ezreal and Bard. Interesting choice. Nice bits of poke to come through. What are we getting here from Peace? Still a fair bit on offer. They have AP, they have AD. I'm really waiting to see whether or not we are going to get an ADC through. And that is an ADC, but it's more likely than not going to be one headed in towards the mid lane. So I think that all but confirms it.
For sure, unless it's Tally. Right?
Well, actually, that could be a good point as well.
We never know. I would assume the exact positions you've stated, but with the next 10 seconds, we'll have absolute confirmation, because Viego can be anywhere still.
Lots of discussions going on in the Peace camp. It's going to be Trundle. So, top Trundle?
Clear as mud.
Jungle Trundle.
I mean, Trundle has been picked top. Can go jungle 100%. I've been seeing it internationally in the jungle role. If we were to make assumptions on where everything's going, it's Ziggs Nautilus bot lane with Lucian mid, and then you would have Trundle jungle with Viego top, but it's matchup pending, right? And that's where the Direwolves now get their say in this decision. What are they going to pick last? It is going to be a Cassiopeia mid lane, which confirms a Kali top, which I do think confirms that it's probably best to just put the Viego up there and to have the Trundle in the jungle matchup.
Wow, this is going to be a fun game. I'm really not sure what we're going to get from this one, to be honest, Rusty. I feel like both teams have drafted very interesting team compositions. I like the Cassiopeia pick. I've always been a fan of Cass. You know, such good late game scaling and the ability to just do so much damage when left uncontested. I mean, you've got the best of both worlds there for Peace as well. You know, sometimes you pick the Ziggs down in the bottom lane. You think, okay, well, are we going to have that ADC presence? It feels like it's sort of so important in the game that is League of Legends to have some ranged AD damage. And you sometimes lack something when you don't have it. But at least for Peace, they've got it with Halo. And we know Halo's a very prolific Lucian player himself. Certainly a champion that's in his wheelhouse. I suppose for me, the biggest question mark over this roster actually for Peace is how proficient is Violet on Ziggs? And to be fair, I mean, I've got to look at it and say, well, I can only imagine that he's going to be pretty good at it, right? Because Violet is generally quite a mechanically good player. Ziggs isn't exactly the most difficult of champions to pick up. As long as you can hit your skill shots, you generally do pretty well.
Yeah.
But you never know. I mean, it might just be something that doesn't gel too well with him, although you'd have to say they wouldn't pick it if he's not going to feel comfortable in it, so...
Yeah, for sure, especially in a stage game, right? Like, you've no doubt in your mind they've been scrimming or practicing with it if he's going to be whipping this one out on stage. It's not going to be a first-time Ziggs player on the LCO. While it's possible, it's very unlikely. And I do think that this is probably comfortable in terms of their draft overall. Otherwise, right, Appy on the Nautilus, I'm sure is going to be comfortable territory for him. Tally on a meta champion. Babip, I am going to say on a meta champion, just more niche in terms of his options. Nothing stands out to me as crazy besides, like you mentioned, just seeing just how good Violet is going to be on his first time on this champion against Direwolves with comfortable champion.
Yeah, double corrupting potion in the mid lane to start things off, so that's going to be quite the brawl-heavy matchup, and we'll see a little bit of a to and fro between them. Violet actually opting to start for the Sapphire Crystal, which is interesting. Going for that extra mana, definitely something to think about. Obviously, Ziggs having some mana problems early on in the game. Either way, Rusty, I'll leave it with you for the moment to keep an eye on what's happening in the early game, as I do bring Midlord into the discussion. Everyone's a big Midlord fan, and so am I, so it's great to chat with you again, Midlord. The first question that I have for you, I think, is probably the big one. Obviously, Tally's return. How's he sort of integrating into the team, and how much practice have you actually had with Tally?
Actually, Tally is returned for our team. Like he practiced with like for half a month.
Okay, interesting. So he's had a little bit of time with the boys. What about the move from Appy to the top lane down to support? Now I've understood that Appy's actually had some experience in the support role. So is he fitting in nicely, and how's Violet finding that as well?
Yeah, that's true. He just play both with Vincent last minute, right? So it's just like normal rotate for him.
Okay. And final question I have for you is relating to the draft. And you've gone for Ziggs, which seems to be a bit of a meta pick at the moment, but we were discussing how it maybe doesn't seem like the kind of champion that Violet would normally play. Is he quite happy to pick up the Ziggs, or is that something that he's sort of been forced onto?
Yeah, he's happy to pick Ziggs. His champion Ocean is very strong. He can play Ziggs and normal AD.
All right, that seems like a good enough reason for me to pick Ziggs. Anyway, Midlord, thank you very much for the interview. Wish you the best of luck in this game.
Thank you.
All right, well, there we go. I guess confirmation, Rusty, that the champion Ocean is large and deep.
Well, it's good, right? It's a vote of confidence from the coach, as you would want to expect, given that he's drafted the champion for him. But nevertheless, it's nice to hear before we see it. And right now, just to quickly recap on some of the things that we missed here, Jordan, we had a level 2 gank from Only in mid lane as he stole the enemy red buff. So now you're seeing the transition from Peace on the other side of the map. This is effectively just forcing some vertical jungling. Risky from the side of Peace bottom to be pushing in the way that they are, right? Ziggs and Nautilus near the turret when a Xin Zhao is nearby. The risk is there, but mid also constantly pushing. So it's a dangerous game Peace are playing. So far navigating it expertly to not be killed.
Yeah. Nothing too crazy thus far. A little bit of farm going on in the mid lane. How do you see this mid lane matchup working? Because again, every time I look at a Lucian mid, I always think that is a champion that wants to force the issue. Whereas for Cassiopeia, I think it's on the other side of the scale where you're more than happy to just take a bit of a slower lane and just scale into the game.
Yeah, in terms of this mid lane 1v1, usually I would say if Shock on his Cassiopeia misses a Q, then there's free reign for Halo to be aggressive. But at the same time, I might actually hold this point depending on what Trundle does here, because I think Claire is highly killable.
Yep, certainly looks that way. Claire's going to head right into Babip's waiting arms, red buff in tow. Very slow for Claire, forced to flash as the troll pole comes up.
There's a really terrible lane state for Claire there as well. So not only does he flash away, he's going to have to teleport back, but if he teleports, he needs only here to hover to protect this one as it crashes. So the enemy jungler reveals himself, and Direwolves being forced into a very predictable situation in top side from just a nice little move between Tally and Babip. Exactly what you would expect, right? From the two household names of Oceania.
Lots of synergy coming through for those two. Looking good. Looks like Tally is at home. We did have that confirmation, by the way, as well. So not inside of the Peace Gaming house.
This could be a fight. They've got Cupcake moving up as well as Appy.
Yeah, Halo hanging around Babip there as well. Neither wanting to start the engagement, but Halo might be the one caught out. The stun, it went through from Bard. Halo gets out to safety, but now Appy is here. Flashes right on top of Only, who gets locked down, and the damage is more than enough for Peace to claim first blood. Claire has been left alone, left to his own devices, and tries to deal with Appy, but Halo's there to help out, and Cupcake finished off as well. That is perfection from Peace. Direwolves a bit too aggressive.
Yeah, very illegal gaming there from the Direwolves. Gets very nicely punished, more so on the other side by Peace. No casualties, right? In a massive trade going their way. Egg Claire goes from bad to worse in his top matchup. Only falls behind in his jungle matchup, and Cupcake, who roams up to the play, gets there first, is still going to be matched in timing from what is, the mobility boots Nautilus now, and Appy puts in some serious work in that trade, and not a misstep from Peace so far.
No, certainly not. Full confidence there as well. I love it. From Appy flashing right on top of the key target instead of, just going for the guy that was closest to him. That fight. So 70% of the votes go the way of Peace. I mean, I've got to be honest, I'm a little bit surprised to see that. I might have thought it would be a little closer, but I think there is a lot of faith in particular in Tally coming back now. Similar to the discussion that was around Babip when he returned to Oceania and joined this Peace roster. So I'd imagine that's where a lot of that vote is coming from.
To be honest, when I tipped the Direwolves, I thought I'd be the only one. Like, that's how much of a confidence boost I thought this would give people in Peace in general. Clearly not the case, as there was 3 of us. But maybe we're all thinking the same thing. This could be, I would consider it an upset if Peace lost this one, just given the roster that they're currently fielding. But we don't know till we see it. And, 7 minutes into this 4th game of the DoorDash LCO, they are impressing me non-stop. Still definitely not a game finished yet.
Yeah, progressing along nicely, though, for Peace. Player's just going to shove this wave in the hopes that it's going to bounce back in his direction.
I will say, this lane is playing out as you would expect regardless. It's a lot easier to be a Viego than it is to be an Akali, even in a long lane top early. He's being just stuck. Like, that is the most terrible lane state for Claire to deal with. And it's pretty much just going to stay there until Tally decides otherwise, which means whenever Babip's top side, Claire is just going to be struggling. And it does change the game state, right? It changes the way that Direwolves have to play to keep their top laner alive, or it could go from what is currently a rough situation to an impossible situation. That's horrific.
Yep.
It's also Claire's 2 ranged minions with a melee. It's just over for Claire.
Yeah,
just accept reality.
Game, can he? There is nothing he can do right now. So he has to go for the recall, buy what meager items he can, and crawl back to the top lane. Teleport still not ready for him just yet. Tally obviously has his available. Direwolves are going to look to take the dragon, which will be a trade for the Rift Herald. Babip's cleaning that one up quite nicely. So overall, don't think that either team's too disappointed with that passage of play. Direwolves are probably happy that things have slowed down a little bit here because Peace, got off to a banger of a start, but despite sort of slowly forcing their lead, they've not been able to really blow this out of the water.
If I was to take issue with a single facet of the Direwolves draft, it would be how much scaling they drafted, right? Like, Cassiopeia is a tier stacker. Guncrab on his Ezreal is a tier stacking champion. Bard usually needs time to ramp up as well for getting chimes. That's just my biased Bard opinion. We'll hold. Good flash. Oh.
Well, Bard Ultimate does connect. Is there much of a follow-up? Halo in all sorts of problems. Does not have flash available. And so Direwolves find a pick of their own. Goes on to Shock as well, which is great news.
Yeah, Cupcake says don't reach Young Blood. Catches them slipping. We'll be able to find themselves the pick onto Halo. Nicely done, honestly, by Direwolves. And just to quickly finish off my prior point as well, I think the amount of scaling that exists on Direwolves, except for Only, puts so much pressure into the hands of the jungler of Direwolves. And he goes for a level 2 gank. And because that doesn't actually go the way of Direwolves at all, in fact, there's just a dash to safety, it does go from bad to worse for them, right? And you're seeing the byproduct of that now.
Crab being forced away. Not having a great time down there. Nearly getting pushed into the tower. See what Tally does here. He's a level up. Waiting patiently. There's a pink in that bush. Claire's going to check it. Hasn't spotted Tally yet. Anyway, not much to come from it. Too big of a wave, really, for Tally to do anything.
Tally has been annihilating the wave control in this top wave, though. I've got to give him all that credit. Just simply playing the waves does wonders for League. That's something that Biopanther will speak your ear off about, I've no doubt. Get him going on wave states. And it really is something that separates, good players from great players and even great players from the best. So definitely keep that in mind as you see Claire, who has switched, transitioned to top lane, still being kept under the whim of the superior lane matchup, holding his waves hostage consistently. Otherwise, though, towards the scaling, things have actually panned out decently well for Direwolves and for Shock, namely, who gets himself a CS advantage and a kill lead in mid and is able to navigate his way through the time spent scaling with the tier into being much more relevant sooner, which is big.
Yeah, he's been getting a bit of assistance. Cupcake not quite going to make that one work. What's happened there? Well, still the stun onto Halo, who actually forces the flash out. It feels like a bit of a nothing gank that's actually turned out to be reasonably successful.
I think you can probably all tell from my reactions, but I'm a Bard main, and that journey just like in my soul, man, like my bones feel that pain. Because I can promise you that that never happens until the one time you go to make the play. It always looks like it's going to connect and you get a full journey, but not when you need it.
Still, I mean, they get something out of it, so wasn't obviously the kill they were looking for, but a flash is still pretty good. Means the Direwolves can come back again straight away, and Cupcake is definitely spending a lot of time mid, so too, obviously, Only. But you sort of expect that coming from the jungler, maybe not as much from the support, although it is a Bard, I suppose.
Bard does as he pleases, kind of fills many hats. Only and Cupcake, speaking of, now going to be advancing into the enemy jungle. Red buff about to spawn, and Appy about to find him.
Yeah, it might have been a misstep from Appy there. He does manage to Spider-Man onto the wall, but there's no getting out of this one. The lockdown is too good from Cupcake, and the follow-up from Only makes for another easy kill. Response in mid, though, is going to be the Rift Herald down, so Babip and Halo will collect a couple of plates worth of gold, but overall, not ideal.
Seems like Claire's lost a pretty big trade in top lane here as well, though. Another plate is going to fall. Now, that pretty much sinning is what we just saw from Appy. Has really no reason to be near that red buff at all. Like, getting confirmation that they're there is great, but you've died for it. Your jungler's on the top side, red jungle, right? Like, on the opposite side of the map to you, there's no reason for you to be there. You should probably just be positioned more near your tri-bush to protect your AD carry, or in this case, your Ziggs. Or you should be working with the Trundle. Those are your options. He chooses option C, none of the above, and dies for it. So it's good punish from Direwolves, but again, you don't really expect him to be there. You expect a red buff that you're taking, which is why you've moved there. This does open up topside once again, though. You know, Tally stretches his lead further as a result of junglers on the top side of the map. Nothing doing that.
I thought we might again see something go against Appy, but Cupcake's able to get out of there okay, and there was no real follow-up for Direwolves regardless, so all's well that ends well. Big gold lead in the top lane, though. Tally up about 1.4k on Claire, and that is going to continue to stretch, I can only imagine. About 30 CS, the deficit. Leandri's Anguish, though, finished off for Shock, and that's where we start to think, okay, Cassiopeia starting to come online.
Absolutely. Mythic's completed, scaling up, getting some builds, just getting some levels on a Cassiopeia who finally gets natural move speed from the passive. Don't ask me to name it. It's just move speed.
Snakes and ladders.
That's what it does. Oh yeah, why not?
That sounds good.
Snakes on a plane.
These boots were made for walking. I don't know, I'm coming up
There's
with
no
good
boots,
ones.
that's the problem.
I know, that's the joke. Ah well, we'll figure it out one day. No one choose Cassiopeia for that game though, please, because I won't get it right.
You could put a sock on a snake, couldn't you?
At least one, yeah. You probably could on the back, and probably on the top. You could probably put two on. Anyways, we'll see. Babip going to kickstart the Dragon. There is a bit of a contingent of Direwolves players hanging around, though, and to be quite honest, feeling like Direwolves might actually have a decent contest here, but they think otherwise, and they're happy to give the Cloud Drake over to Peace. Not the biggest of losses, though, when you're up against a Ziggs, a Lucian, you know, sure, ability haste on the ultimate is actually not too shabby.
Yeah, so one big thing there as to why, you know, Direwolves were posturing but not contesting is the difference in top teleports. Tally was ready to fight. He also backed away from the top wave to look to teleport if they contested. And that could have been devastating for the side of Direwolves if that were to happen, right? Not only is Tally big, Claire wouldn't be there. They're probably just not worth it. Only is well and truly up Craig. They're collapsing.
Does have the ultimate available, so might be able to use that to swindle something here. Shock also ready and waiting with the Petrifying Gaze, and so Direwolves just walk away to safety.
Babip's pillar actually works against Appy, who can't throw a hook then, because Shock just stands behind the pillar and says, try me.
You could still throw the hook.
I mean, you could, right? But then you're not going to get your Aftershock proc, and I suspect in the near future would have been significant regret. So I think he, you know, again, on the side of caution, as you would want.
Bit of a slow game up in the top lane, I guess.
Yeah.
You know, 1-0 and 2 for Tally, but all of that's come from the early fight that happened around the blue buff. Aside from that, he's just been farming. So was Claire. Not really a whole lot happening up there. Every time we look, it's just Tally sitting under tower, hitting creeps. Kind of happy to scale into this game, slowly but surely.
Yeah, I think, honestly, like the past few minutes, things have evened out, like completely flattened in terms of, there's no scaling, there's no significant advantage that one team has gotten. There's no acceleration, is the word that I was looking for, and that's pretty important, particularly for top lane, because it's no longer a case of like Tally holding freezes and you're losing 2 minions every wave. You are stable now, and just trying to push the wave in, and it actually just means that Tally's been stuck under turret more than anything else. And also, 17 minutes into this one, we haven't really seen the Ziggs utilized for any turret taking or, you know, being strong side of the map at all. It's been very isolated. Gunkrab and Violet have just been chilling down there, you know, stacking their culls, getting some money in their pockets, just doing it all alone, while Appy and Cupcake wander the world and get to experience life. But the Hermits come out very strong in the end, don't they, once they get their items?
Another Rift Herald for Peace. The first one went straight into the mid tower. Only took a couple of plates. It was still full HP when that Rift Herald was actually utilized, so I wonder where the second will end up. We'll go top, finish that tower off, or into mid.
Rift not quite liking that top side.
No. I was just going to say, that's something interesting. Anyway, it looks like Shock will pick up a tower down in the bot lane, and that is the first turret of the game. So, not something you see every day when you've got a Ziggs actually losing the first tower.
Yeah, Gunkrab will all chat there and say one lane GG, even though he's mid lane and Shock is the one to take that. But what that does mean, though, is that we have our lane assignments in mid game, right? We have broken out of your traditional laning phase lane assignments. And the big takeaway from this one is that Direwolves have set up to the Dragon side of the map in a 1-3-1, where I think they're pretty comfortable with, again, Claire and Tally just sitting top lane, doing actually nothing, just farming, right? Scaling into team fights and protecting their Cassiopeia, who is the one who has the 40 CS lead, who is the one who wants to team fight and be protected by the rest of his team. So this does also scream to me, if that's where the lanes stay, the Dragons are the point of priority, and this third Drake of the game could be a hot contest.
It's a Mountain Dragon. It's going to be the soul, of course, as well. Violet should be able to finish this tower off. Did have the satchel charge, opted not to. Interesting. Trying to bait Direwolves in a little bit more. All right, here we go. That's that. Done.
Yep, conversation over. Just looking at setup now for this Dragon, you've got an early teleport from Guncrab as well, the third teleport of the team. Violet sharing in that sentiment though. Halo.
Guncrab is keen and eager.
That's a how do you do.
It's interesting, he's actually finished off the Muramana first item instead of going in towards the Trinity Force, which has traditionally been the initial item for Ezreal's.
Yeah, I'm a fan of this. I know it's not commonly seen, but I do think that Sheen into Pickaxe, or like Pickaxe first, is really powerful. And finishing your full Muramana or Manamune first actually does stack it quite fast and alleviates some pressure of having to hit abilities. You can just auto-attack. It does mean that the base AD increases, right?
Oh, that is a fantastic hook from Abby. The follow-up doesn't quite finish Shock off. He's exhausted, can't find an angle into this fight, while Only and Claire try to frontline. Direwolves surely can't make this fight happen with Shock that low. Remember, there's a Rift Herald here for Babip as well.
Shock has teleport, so just keep that in mind. They can actually re-establish the fight once he gets back to base, and does do so with his life. Mid lane outer turret very dead here, however, and a second charge on the horizon.
Yeah, it looks like Peace aren't even interested in trying to take the fight to the Dragon. They're more than happy to take as much out of the mid lane as possible. But do they get collapsed upon from Direwolves? Claire engages into the Shroud, hides away in safety, and is doing a lot of damage solo right now. Enough to force Peace away. Tally is isolated. Can he get out of here? I don't think so. Even on Viego, I'm not sure that he has enough mobility to escape this. Shock going to be gifted the kill if no one else. No,
flash.
Surely not. The flash over. Tally will die to the burn.
Yeah.
If it were not that, it would have been Guncrab.
I mean, it was inevitable. Buys so much time. Tally almost surviving, hanging on by a thread, but unfortunately for him, and I will say in hindsight, does waste the flash.
Yeah.
Probably should have just accepted the reality that he was dead. Zig's ultimate going to be chucked in here, but not using damage over time. It is the Ludens, so just going to be another Dragon. And like we expected, right? Dragon was going to be a point of priority. It was going to be something that was contested. The trade here, though, is that Peace get 2 mid turrets. They break the top turret, and they really are poised to take over control around this Baron and the map through structures alone. 4-1 in turrets right now is significant. But the fighting form of Direwolves is definitely there.
Yeah, Direwolves looking a little bit more, dare I say it, dangerous, scary in these 5-on-5 engagements. Don't necessarily get that same sense through from Peace. I mean, granted, Appy hit a very, very nice hook at the start of that fight, but the follow-up just didn't quite get the better of Shock, and I suppose that's a big difference maker. If Shock dies there, Peace get everything. They get the Dragon, they get the mid towers. But because Shock is able to survive and teleport back to the fight, they at least salvage something out of it.
Yeah, most definitely. Like the fact that he's able to teleport into the mid lane outer turret does save a lot of extra damage that could have went down. They're able to stem a lot of bleeding, and to be fair, that was a fantastic hook from Appy, but 2, I'm thinking a little bit ridiculous that it hit. Babip.
Well, is he going to survive here? Doesn't look like it at the moment. Only just goes straight on top of him with Claire. Shock was there as well, and there was no one to help him out at all.
Ooh,
and so
Baron
turn straight to the Baron. And, I mean, is that necessarily the worst of ideas at this point? I can't imagine that it is, given they have the 4-on-5. They're burning through it relatively slowly, so the contest can come in from Dial.
They can turn with a Bard ult here as well. Ooh, Zig's ult.
Well, that's a nice bomb. Does a lot of damage, but the Baron is secured, and now Appy is in deep, caught by the Petrifying Gaze, and no one really from Peace can actually follow up. Violet! He's stuck behind the Bard ulti. And that's another kill for Direwolves, who continue to mount the pressure on Peace.
I mean, fantastic from Direwolves as a set play, right? They find the jungler unsuspecting, they take him down, and it is only in Claire that put in the work to get the initial pick. Claire definitely starting to come into his own on the champion right after he gets through that laning phase, starting the Baron and saving so many of their abilities, forcing Peace to come into the fight. But by the time the fight happens, even though Violet has done so much of their health with the Mega Inferno Bomb, they're able to turn and burn their opponents, right, using the ultimates that they had in advantage. And just the sheer fact that it's a 4v5 comes up trumps. A good ult from Shock, as well as the discipline, honestly, from the rest of Direwolves to hold their abilities until the last second when necessary. Will be able to win themselves a team fight with picks.
Oh, that's bad manners. That is bad manners. Halo's not happy with it. Look at him. He's really not happy with that.
He's all right. He's got Violet to back him up. But yeah, there's definitely some BM there. Some BM of the good kind.
Yep.
Because it's just good play, not just mean.
Violet looking to clear this wave out, but Baron creeps are something to chunk through, even for Ziggs. Meanwhile, Shock is happy to solo lane. I mean, 259 CS right now, really starting to balloon out. More than 10 a minute. That's a good number.
Do need to slow down the play a little bit here. Peace are trying to get ahead of the tempo and push in this mid wave before it actually exists. So Claire needed to get here and put Baron on it, which is the correct play. And then you've got vision control on the top side jungle. You should be working with that to Baron empower this next wave as it crashes. I think that they were maybe a little bit afraid, right? Shock actually walked over to make sure that they had pressure in mid before going to top. So it'll be delayed that they get here. But the next wave is going to crash. The timing is good. And they will still be able to break another inner turret. So this Baron is going to provide a lot of gold here for the side of Direwolves.
It's fighting Claire in the mid lane right now, but how much can really come for it when Claire just goes into the Shroud and says, all right, well, that's all good. I'm chilling. So the result is still the same for Direwolves. They get that top tower down. Dragon up in 50 seconds. The buff of the Baron is going to dissipate before that spawns. Shock and Gunkrab have really started to accelerate, both above 10k. No one reaching that mark just yet for Peace. The big threats that are going to only scale better as well.
Yeah, 100%. I think at this stage, right, because this mid lane outer turret's going to fall as well, ease of access for getting around the map for Direwolves goes up, and the snowballing and the scaling, like you highlighted, it will continue. We've gone from basically a 500 gold difference between these teams towards Peace Claire.
Well, Halo wants to get aggressive on top of Claire. There's always the possibility for a one-shot. That's what I'm talking about. You cannot underestimate Akali.
I mean, that's just a left-right goodnight. Claire puts Halo to sleep. Not even close in the end, I'm sure he'll say. Needs to run. Does not have his Shroud for 5 more seconds.
He's got Flash. He gets away here.
Yep, we'll be able to get out with his life. That does mean the Dragon is secured by Direwolves. That puts them at soul point for a Mountain Soul with 3 mountains at that. And if you're having a hard time dealing with an Akali, add a shield to the burst.
Yeah.
Almost impossible from that point.
Akali's an interesting champion. I think I'll leave it at that. But I feel like at the moment, Claire is almost the least of the worries for Peace when they have Shock that's nearing 300 CS, Gunkrab the same, and these two champions are just so unenjoyable to deal with when they get ahead, in particular Ezreal.
Yeah.
Like, what's the recourse for Peace? How do they actually kill an Ezreal with the team composition that they've got?
I mean, your game plan is using Nautilus hooks, right? With Ziggs ultimate. Like, I think the recipe is very simple for Peace. It's about, can you do it? Because you want to hit the hook or press Nautilus ultimate. That means that Ziggs is going to get free burst, right? Because the ultimate will do the maximum damage in the center. You're going to hit him. And then you've got a Viego who gets resets as a result, right? You actually get to steal somebody that way. I think you've got the makings of a very clean and easy team fight for Peace. But that does require a lot of the correct setup to be happening in the first place and pieces to fall in place. Where I think right now, easier said than done. Claire's starting to really come into his own. You've got the Ezreal, like you highlight, that's just an absolute menace and hard to deal with. And that's not really mentioning at this point how well Cupcake and Only have been playing this game. And the fact that Shock simply exists as just a monolith in mid, just this monster, right? That you have to somehow get past to even get to Gunkrab.
A True Shot Barrage doing a third of Violet's HP after already going through a couple of creeps. Tally's going to try and force a fight against Claire, who, look, might have a lot of damage, but I'm not sure that Claire's going to be able to one-shot Tally at this point.
Tally messes up big time there. He uses his true ultimate, doesn't actually use anything else. That's a big cooldown missing. Claire doesn't use one of his own. Yeah. So both top laners with teleports. That hurts the combo we just discussed there. And this is with Violet already chunked out.
They've got a 55-second window here, Direwolves, where Tally does not have the ultimate available. Looks like they're going to head towards the Baron, and that most certainly will be a factor if the Baron is started right now by Direwolves.
Yeah.
Teleport, of course, available for both Claire and Tally. They can get to that fight.
I mean, I think this is a Violet angle, right? I can't think of another way that's more important for Peace to win this game, and I'm not surprised that I'm saying that, but I do think their way into this game is just Violet. Has to put in, like, you know, get 3 items, get 4 items, continue to scale. It's so hard to end a game without Baron against the Zeeks. Oh.
Well, Appy looks like he wants to find something. They got the hook onto Cupcake, but now the turn is through, and the threat of the Mega Inferno Bomb is lost. Peace are routed, and they're trying to escape, but Claire's on the flank, only connects with a W, charges forward, and here comes the revenge. Direwolves are dominating Peace. Cupcake through the magical journey. Opts to say, you know what, maybe there was a better option there and it wasn't going through it, but
Tally.
Halo does a bit of work. Tally jumps back over the wall with his flash. I mean, it's worked out very nicely for Direwolves. I mean, all things considered, they lost a player here or there, but overall, very, very big team fight win.
I mean, it got dicey at a moment there for Direwolves. You've got Cupcake trying to make montages on his bar, definitely makes a mistake there, has to flash away. Halo's able to get some kills. Tally was actually putting in some pretty nice work in that fight as well, and did start to get some resets on that Viego passive. And for just a moment, you're like, oh, this could be, like, it shouldn't be. They have no right winning this one, but it's possible that Peace come out with some leads here. And considering how this starts, right, Claire smashes them. Shock follows up brilliantly, and you've had Gunkrab all but untouched. Most of the damage he takes in this fight is from a turret. So that's how one-sided it actually does end up being. At the end of the day, you saw what could have happened perhaps if Peace take this team fight with a gold advantage, or with an even goal game state, or just with a 5v5, because Appy wasn't there.
Right. Still early days, I guess, in this game. 30 minutes in, I feel like we've still got a lot of legs in this game, right? It's still a lot of turrets open, nothing really broken open just yet. Direwolves are threatening towards the Mountain Soul. But Peace might still have a couple of words left to say before this is over. Again, Tally's going to head in towards the bottom lane to deal with Claire. The rest of Peace are focusing themselves around mid. Appy is in a very dangerous position right now.
Oh, Bard ult.
The Bard ultimate, but we'll focus on what's happening down in bot for just a second. Looks like nothing actually came of the Bard ult. And so Tally and Claire are going head-to-head. Tally on the run, but is it a feint? Is he just going to take the fight to Claire? It looks like he might. Zonya's down from Claire, and the shots go through for Tally. It's not quite a one-shot, but it kind of feels like it in the end. There is the response from Direwolves, only deleting Appy, who just doesn't feel like a factor at the moment. He's just not tanky enough, and he gets broken so quickly.
Yeah, Appy having a definite roughie. This is Mountain Soul secured. Tally gets his 1v1. He gets the solo kill in a side lane, but unfortunately for him, the rest of the map is just losing. You know, Direwolves get another pick. Nautilus ult used, but Gunkrab absolutely going off in this game. 2-0-4, no doubt, looking like he's going to be an MVP in this one. Shock untouched, even with the Nautilus ultimate to knock him up. Just unstoppable, right? The champions that are meant to be scaling in this game have hit a point where they've well and truly scaled. They've gone beyond the traditional just standard scale. They're fed. And that's impossible to deal with for the composition of Peace.
Said, Peace is one of those teams that sometimes finds a little bit of magic. That's kind of what they're going to need here. Violet clearing up the blue buff. It's nice for Zeeks. How much is it really going to help him at this point? Few champions ticking over the 300 CS mark. We got Tally, Violet, Jock and Gunkrabs. We hit the 33rd minute of the game. Most of the lads starting to get towards full item builds. Just one away for both Shock and Gunkrab. We've also got, obviously, the 12-stack Magi's on Shock, which can become more and more of a problem as this game goes on, because it's less and less likely that Shock dies from here. He's got Zhonya's. Feeling pretty happy about things.
So, for me, if I was to pick something that is really significant now, is that Violet just ticked over to 16 with a Void Staff. Babib caught.
Yeah, certainly caught. Appy's there to try and help out as well. Looks like Babib's walking out of this one okay with the ultimate in tow, but how long can he survive for? The answer is not long enough. Now Halo with the culling doing absolutely no damage. In fact, it might be negative damage at this point. Gets broken down again. And this is just demolition by the Direwolves. Tally, the only saving grace getting anything done up in the top lane at the moment. He'll take that tower.
Yeah.
But it's a wooden spoon prize.
Yeah, he's absolutely getting consolation victories up there, right? Like, he's been split pushing for so long now that he's built up an 80-odd CS lead over his opponent in Claire. Claire's grouping a little bit more, however, and Direwolves as a whole have such a significant lead. So Tally has a shutdown while the rest of the team is unfortunately losing. That is this game in a nutshell. The Nexus may die with Tally still having a shutdown in terms of difference in his lane opponents. It doesn't even compare to the size of the Cassiopeia, to the size of the Ezreal, to how impossible it is to kill this Xin Zhao as well. Only having a very good game.
I mean, to make matters worse, he's got a Guardian Angel now as well, so you have to kill him twice in the same fight, and I just don't see it happening. All that healing in tow.
Yeah. Also, a lot of your damage is out, like, just beaten by his ultimate.
Yeah, that's true.
Zig's ult does 0 damage, Lucian culling does 0 damage. You don't want to be in his area of effect either, because you're dying to him.
There's no heal cut at all for Peace either. Unless I'm missing something. But, yeah, I mean, he's going to be getting the full effectiveness of the Gore Drinker. And then some from his passive as well. Looks like Appy might be caught out here. Bard ultimate confirms it, and Shock is ready and waiting. That is a Nautilus that just got deleted.
Yeah, that is the most dead Nautilus. There's just really no way out of that one. I mean, the strength of Bard at this point, right, having as many meeps as he does, he's hit the point of 60. So the meep auto attack slow is significant. And you could see how slowed it actually was. You know, Appy goes Boots of Mobility. He definitely suffers. You know, this is the type of game where you probably want Boots of Swiftness anyway. Nevertheless, that's his decision. He is punished for that one accordingly. And now Tally having to group. You know, no real choice. 20 seconds till Baron. He's going to have to get here and try and help his team. And he's going to have to work in a 4v5 without their support to place vision. Can't even catch a break on recalls if you're Violet.
Going to get one off eventually. Baron buff on offer for Direwolves, and not really much of an answer for Peace at the moment. Tally once again is going to head towards the side wave by the looks of things and just try to relieve as much pressure as possible from Peace. Halo walked up a little bit too far. Claire disconnecting and reconnecting, so we might be okay here for a fairly short pause.
We have to assume that he's fine and it will be a short pause. We pause nonetheless, so we can actually take stock of this game overall. As you're seeing all of the champions at the bottom of your screen. We've highlighted the difference between the top laners a few times already, Jordan, right? 90 CS now is the difference between Tally and Claire, but it doesn't matter because he's still doing his job, right? He's got the assassinations, and the place that I actually want to talk about, because I don't think we've mentioned this too much, Halo on the Lucian is kind of reliant on having early leads as the champion. You know, one of the most annoying things is Lucian hitting level 11, hitting level 16 before you. And the culling with Cyrilda's proccing multiple times is an absolute nightmare. He will just be a menace to deal with. But are you hearing that?
Yeah, that's replays. We don't see them.
Oh, okay.
Yet, but we're going to get them on the screen. There we go. So, yeah, just go through some of the moments of this game that we've seen so far. I mean, it's kind of felt to me like a little bit of a slow burn, really. Like, there was that great start for Peace. They did not a lot with it, I hesitate to say. Like, I mean, I feel like Tally pushed the issue a little bit in top, but it wasn't so much getting kills. It was really just controlling the top lane, and then slowly but surely, Direwolves found a couple of picks here and there, and then they hit critical mass. and Peace could do nothing about it.
Yeah, a lot of this game was about, there's almost too much scaling on the side of the Direwolves, and that was cause for concern, Peace started to get ahead, maybe run away with the game. And just as you're thinking, okay, this is kind of looking gloomy, maybe doom and gloom for Direwolves, they scale into a team fight. They just get a couple of little individual outplays. They make some good picks onto Peace, and the unsuspecting Peace, they fall on their own sword, the own lead that they have, and try as they might. Now, the scaling champions did in fact scale. They got to that point in the game, and it's continuing from this point, right? The scaling doesn't stop. It only gets worse. It only gets harder to deal with. And, the one beacon of hope is what you're currently looking at.
Yeah, but it sort of feels impossible for Tally to get enough done in the side lane quickly enough for the rest of Peace to survive. Now, of course, back to live. Halo was just about to get caught out before he went into that pause, and we see what eventuates from that after having just overcommitted on that wave to push it out another little bit. Ends up giving up his life, and with that, probably an inhibitor here as well, or maybe two.
Yeah, I mean, it could just be the game, man. You've got Tally in a side lane. They've deemed it impossible. Violet has to flash. I mean, I would threaten the Nexus 100%.
Yeah, I think that's what Direwolves is going to do, although they might just grab that top inhibitor first. Or maybe
Tally's
not.
Still showing bottom.
Gunkrab wanted to, but yeah, I mean, Tally does have TP, so if push comes to shove, he can teleport back. I suppose he's kind of the mantra that he's not going to be able to do too much in this situation anyway, and until it is literally the 11th hour, he's going to try and get as much done in the side lane as possible. So they do give up the 2 inhibitors. Now you see the reset coming through from Tally, and now the question remains, can Peace defend? Appy goes forward, connecting onto a minion. That will result in his death. Halo just off the respawn, goes straight back to a grey screen, and the rest of Peace are offering no resistance at all to speak of. Tally, the last survivor, and he will eventually fall as well. You said the Nexus might go down with Tally still having that shutdown. Not the case. He dies right before that fact, but Direwolves with an absolutely commanding victory, and I think they've got me convinced. I wasn't super convinced coming out of last week. I thought maybe it's a flash in the pan for Direwolves, but with that win, 3 in a row, Direwolves is back.
Yeah, I mean, that's a massive win for Direwolves. It's funny because I feel like we're following the same trajectory as we did from Direwolves in Split 1, right? Which is dicey for a few weeks, then hit your stride. And, last time we saw this, I believe they had a 7-win streak, almost a perfect round robin. I think 1 loss in there to Pentanet.gg is what you can see from Direwolves. And, they've started to find their form again. I think this was a really good win from them overall, and they should be very happy. Considering that, they did have a losing early game with a comp that probably should be losing in the early game, and they pulled it back, the way that you would want them to with their comp. I would personally look at maybe some small draft changes to have a winning place for your Xinjiao to work with, but they made the most of what they had.
Yeah, overall, a very, very nice game from Direwolves. Mac, we'll get you back here as well, and you've got to be happy with that from Direwolves.
Yeah, I think so. I'm only happy, though, if the Twitch chat predicted for what I wanted.
I don't think that they did. I think they did not. I think they predicted 70% for Peace.
Another one, huh? Another one, Twitch chat. Great job. Great job, guys. No more Pog champs for you. You're not Pog champ. But congratulations to the 30% that did go and predict for Direwolves. Either way, was a great game. Great game to watch. So Direwolves getting back into form, it seems, and Tally having to face the facts that it's not a W for him coming into Peace. So let's see if that trend continues as we get further into the split. He played well, though. He didn't do too much wrong. I think it was just, trying to figure out what's going on in the team at the moment, and their first on-stage game not quite going right. The Direwolves with a fair few outplays there. That one in particular was 1 offset outplays. And, the scaling, it eventually happened, and then it just got too much for Peace to deal with. So, a great, entertaining match to watch, and it lasted a good amount of time.
I mean, it did what it could. He's like, Tally, credit to him, comes into the league and does his part, but he does his part in a losing game, and it's just definitely not the way you would want to make your debut. If I was to pick anything, though, from Peace's side from this one, I do think that the Lucian mid wasn't exactly what they were looking for in terms of overall results. And I think for Jordan, your initial question marks that we had on the Ziggs bottom. Is it worth it for Peace? I'm not sold yet. Like, I think it was just an okay Ziggs game, but that's not really the ultraviolet 400 APM montage making champion pick that he could pick and he could carry with.
I agree with that. You know, you want to see the hard carries in the hands of Violet. That's what he's so damn good at. That's what he's known for, and that's what he needs to continue to play for Peace to get these dubs. And look, he has gone with the meta a fair few times, and he probably thinks I don't know what I'm talking about. And I don't think I know what I'm talking about either. So tell me, what do these numbers mean, Rusty?
They mean total damage dealt to champions. I mean, right now, so the big thing that stands out for me is, first of all, Dragon Control going heavily the way of Direwolves made that win very easy for them. And in terms of overall damage share, I enjoy seeing that it is pretty much just a mixed amount of damage from everyone on Direwolves. They all did their part, and they made it miserable for Peace to deal with. That's kind of expected, though. Nothing here is surprising or really crazy to me overall.
And Jordan, I want you to talk me through that Trundle pick, because obviously he's historically good as a anti-tank, but I'm seeing not a lot of tankiness coming out there from Direwolves.
Yeah, look, I mean, I think that was a little bit of a curveball from Peace that has a few of us still scratching our heads. I'm not too sure what that was. You know, obviously there's something there for them. I'm sure that they'd have a few opinions on it, but to me, I feel like there was better options. That's probably TLDR for me.
Well, maybe because you don't really know, we'll bring Nat in. And Nat, can you tell me about this Trundle pick? You're the expert on Trundle. There?
Definitely. You know what? To loosely quote probably one of my favorite people, something about a Trundle and how he wins against a Jhin in the 1v1. I don't know. It was Juice. He tweeted something.
No,
he tweeted something.
It's because he's an ogre.
Yeah,
and ogres
Trundle,
have layers.
All I remember from
Trundle
that tweet,
beats
in a 1v1, but Trundle can enable with ganks. That's pretty much it. Why they would have gone with the Trundle pick. Thank you, Jubes.
I think that was a pretty solid insight. Thanks, Jubes. Now, Nat, do you have an interview ready there?
I do. I am shocked joining me for that post-game interview. Congratulations on the win. The game played out really well for you guys. You looked absolutely so strong. But I want to start in the early game. It probably wasn't the best for you guys. There were a few failed ganks and whatnot. But transitioning out of the early game into the mid-game was strong for you guys. And I want to know a little bit about the communication and why that transition worked so well for you guys.
Yeah, so in the early game, like, we made a mistake in the topside skirmish, and we fell kind of behind from that, but I'm surprised you guys actually showed the early game after that, because what happened in the mid lane phase was kind of like not safe for viewing, I would say. After the lane phase, like coming into mid game, I was up like 30 or 40 CS, and so I said to my team, like, I'm so strong, like, I'm going to 1v9 this game, and so Bard and Zinzel just like made sure that I didn't die while I had no flash, and then, yeah, like, we came into mid game, and we just kind of won every team fight, I felt like, because Lucian was really useless, so...
Yeah, you were absolutely the win condition, and you guys played around for it. Apart from you being up so ahead in CS, what other advantage do you think you had over Peace in that game?
I think like the draft went quite well for us. I feel like we were really comfortable on what we were playing. Like, we kind of just like played our best champs, right? Like, I was playing Cassio, Gunnar was playing Ezreal, etc. Like, everyone just had like their really good champs, and on their side, I'm not sure, like, I don't see their scrims obviously, but I didn't know like Violet even played Ziggs, so I wasn't expecting that from them at all. So it just kind of felt like not only did we have like the better like team comp, but we were also like way more comfortable with what we were playing than what they were playing.
It definitely showed, except you guys had a little bit of a slower pace to this game, you know, for how, I guess, ahead it felt you guys were. It still felt very methodical. Is that just the sort of game style you wanted to play? You wanted to play that slow pace, or would you prefer to maybe go a little bit more aggressive?
I think like we would like to play more aggressive when we have a lead, obviously, but playing against Ziggs, like, if you don't have Baron, you can't actually like siege anything, especially if you don't have champs that dive, and we kind of have like some champs that peel back, like Ezreal and Cassio, so we don't really have a comp that can really accelerate the game versus them, but also like they can never like come into the river versus us, so we were just gonna get every drag, and like we knew we outscaled them, so we weren't in any rush. So yeah, we just kind of chilled out and won the game.
You guys played that absolutely to a T, and it is great to see the confidence coming out of you, Shock, and the whole Direwolves team. But congratulations again on the win, and thank you for joining me.
Thank you.
Always good to hear from Shock. Now, he really knew and had that confidence in the mid-game that he was going to be out in front. So good to hear from him and to know what was happening in the Direwolves camp.
Yeah, absolutely. For me, just quickly to touch on Shock's point, one, he sounded genuinely really happy after that.
Yeah.
So I felt like the happiness coming from that interview. But two, like, he was spot on, right? Like, there was really, once they got a lead, no way they're losing, because like you actually don't get to exist if you're pieced with that comp walking into them. It was just terrible to deal with. So he was on the money that they scale and they can just chill out and win for free anyway.
Now, I can't wait for the next episode of Capping or Gapping because
he's going to talk himself up again.
He's going to be able to say, now I am the best mid in the league. However, 1 sec, Nat, I'll throw it back to you because there's something that's much more important than talking about Shock right now.
Oh, I don't know.
It is the DoorDash player that delivered for the game, and it's Cupcake. So, you know, he's going to hopefully use that $100 to order $100 worth of cupcakes. Now, good luck. Good job from him, you know, enabling 15 of them kills. 19 wards. Wow, that looks like all Bard players, doesn't it, Rusty?
I mean, I'm not going to say no. Listen, I have a very biased take on Bard players. I think that Cupcake had a fantastic Bard game. So I was always going to give him my vote for the player that delivered, but I do genuinely believe that he was the MVP coming into mid-game for them as well. You know, hit some big team fights, hit some big engages. Shock might be the player that delivered damage, but Cupcake's delivering the dubs.
Ooh, the dubs. And that's what it's all about, getting those Ws on the board, especially when you go up against the likes of Peace. So that's a big, big W for Direwolves to get in this second round of the round robin. And I'm excited to see what they're able to do. I'm also excited to hear from Cupcake at some point to see what he used his $100 from DoorDash on. So that'll be interesting.
That'll have to be a tomorrow question. But now I have 2 points. One being when Shock does his gapping and cap, and I absolutely love watching it because when he talks about himself, he's so stone cold. Like, he's just like, yeah, and so this play that I did, it was really cool down mid. And I'm like, bro, you got to hype that up more, man. But it's very entertaining with the stone cold face. And the second one being, I want to give a shout out to Guncrab. I think he kind of deserved a player that delivered. I know Rusty's really in favor of the supports, and whilst I do agree, I also think Guncrab did really well playing around a lot of team fights, made sure he was always in, you know, the good right positions and whatnot to be able to make sure he didn't get picked off and enable Peace to kind of have a way back in.
Oh, there you go. Now, that was the player that delivered, but of course we have the play of the day as well. Now, you guys don't know what it is. I love this one because you don't actually know what it is. So, what do you think it is, Rusty? I'm not going to stump you like I always seem to, so I'm going to go over to Nat first. What was your favorite play of the day?
Normally, I have a whole list of play of the days, and I think I'm a little bit of a little rusty here because I don't actually have a list at this point in time. So I'm going to instead just go game. I'm going to say it's from this second game.
Okay.
Chiefs Legacy.
Yeah. No.
Yes, that game that happened.
Yeah.
What happened in that game?
Chiefs smacked them.
Yeah. Swaith just something about probably a triple kill somewhere.
All right.
Yeah. Okay. Jordan, what about you?
Yeah, I mean, it could be Swaith, but I don't know that he had any, like, plays that were, like, insane, you know what I mean? It was just kind of like he just killed individuals over and over and over again and kind of became unstoppable. So this is a tough one.
His whole game was play of the day.
I mean,
I
I've
really
got
don't
two
know what
if
this
you
is
want.
going to be.
Yeah, go Rusty.
Okay, so they're both from the same game, Order vs Gravitas. One of them is the Rift Herald winning a 1v1 with the top laner. The other one is Puma having a sick team fight on the top side of the map.
Oh,
Yeah,
the resets where he got... Yeah, that could be it.
Okay. I was also going to say I thought it might have been Jax versus the Wall, which would have been an interesting one. But Nat was probably the closest, saying it was probably some kind of triple kill, and it was, but it was not mentioned here. It was Praedith with a triple kill in the first game of the day, dancing around, doing the dragon dance, of course. Now, Nat, do you want to take stock of this? Are we going to get some Nat by Nat?
Oh, I totally forgot about this. This is how out of shape I am. I can potentially do it if we run it back.
It will be. It's always
There's
been
going to be a wham bam, thank you, ma'am. I think you got to get ready for this one. It's a big combo.
All right. Oh, there's a big combo. Papa's going to jump in. He's going to pull them all together. Decoys on the back line. Something about Predator. I don't really know. Space Jam's actually on cinemas right now. If you want to go see that one, I'm sure if you DM Juice on Twitter, he'll really enjoy that one. Way's also going to go down eventually.
Wow.
Just saying.
Really good speed talking. I'm
Decoy hit a
impressed.
great solar flare there. That's all I'm going to say about that.
Yeah. I
Support
did mention
MVP.
Decoy at some point in there, I think.
You did. You said Decoy jumps in and does a thing or something. I think if we run the words back. However, congratulations to Praedith for the big triple kill for the player of the day. Didn't get the DoorDash player that delivered though, so he's going to be extremely upset about that. Now, let's have a quick look at the standings where all the teams are currently at after day 10 of games. It's going to be interesting. Let's have a look. Chiefs, they are now 2 W's in the lead. Okay, and we still have a 3-way tie at second after
That's
it's
so
all
wild.
happened. So 6 and 4 for Peace, Pentanet, and Order, and this is just kicking off the week as well. 5th tied with Gravitas and Direwolves. Direwolves finally catching up to Gravitas. Their legacy solid in 7th with a 4 and 6 scoreline, and Mammoth 0 and 10. That's a roughie, but hopefully this week they will be able to get a W on the board. Anyone want to chime in and talk about how exciting this leaderboard looks?
I think you have to be pretty miffed if you're Legacy this split, because you've been like, you know what, we've done pretty well. We're starting to come back into the swing of things. We almost might be contented. Oh, wait, never mind. There's like 6 teams that are still above us, even despite the fact that we're having a pretty good season for ourselves. So they've got a tough run, even despite the fact that they've really started to accelerate. I mean, Gravitas have slowed down a little bit, so I'll give them that kind of opportunity, but they still need to get up into 5th.
Yeah, look, you say that, Jordan, but at the same time, they are just 2 W's away from tying second. So you've got to look at the amount of wins and losses there. Everyone's really, 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 really close in terms of
but
all
the thing
W's.
is, I feel like we're starting to see some semblances of normalcy kind of return to this split. Like, it's been a really shaky split so far, but we're starting to see Direwolves look better. We're starting to see Pentanet look a little bit better. Peace might take another week or so with this roster, but you can only imagine that they're going to look really, really good. And Chiefs haven't missed a beat. So there you've got 4 really, really solid looking options. And then there's like Order and Legacy right now, as well as maybe Gravitas that are fighting off for that 5th spot, I feel like, in playoffs. So we're still in a position where we don't really know where all of that's going to go. Any one of these 3 teams could still start to move on pretty quickly and start to push the issue. But I think we're kind of back to where we might have expected to have been at the start of the split.
Alrighty. Now, who's not going to be here tomorrow? Put your hand up.
I'm going to be here.
All right, well, I'm going to get both of your opinions. Nat, you can have 1/3, just so we check this out. We're going to look at the games coming into tomorrow. So bring up that schedule and see what's on the damn menu. 6 p.m., Chiefs and Order going head-to-head. That's a bloody cracker to kick things off. All right. 7 p.m., Gravitas and Peace. We're going to see another upset again. 6 and 4 going up against 5 and 5. You know, they can't be too far apart, right? Looking at the scores. 8 p.m., Legacy and Pentanet. Is there an upset on the cards? Find out to Mozza. And at 9 p.m., you got Mammoth 0 and 10 with Direwolves, who were 5 and 5, but looking damn good. They just took down Peace. So I'm going to start with you, Rusty. What's your game of the day, and what do you think could happen tomorrow?
I think Legacy are going to beat Pentanet.gg in a 33-minute banger. I think you'll be excited for that one. That's really it. I have no logic, and I'm probably still going to tip Pentanet. But let's just deal with it. I want that to happen. I'm willing it into existence.
Yeah, and what about you, Jordan? You're not going to be here either. So any thoughts on everything going on now?
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking forward to the Chiefs versus Order game. I think that's going to be a pretty interesting one. I'm hoping that Order's going to be able to put in a good sort of account for themselves in that matchup, just given the fact that Chiefs have been looking really, really solid so far this split, and Order's, like I said, in kind of dire need of some wins. I think the interesting one to look at is Gravitas versus Peace, because Gravitas did get the better of Peace in their first matchup so far. So there is maybe a precedent set that Gravitas can beat Peace, but with the downward trajectory of Gravitas and, you know, some strong additions to the Peace roster, I wonder if that result will be upset and the tables will turn this time around.
And what about you, Nat? What was your game of the day coming into tomorrow?
Would definitely be the Gravitas versus Peace game. I think. So we see Peace lose today, right? But in the weirdest way, my theory is they're going to be more stable even though they might not have been able to get a win today, I think they're going to be more consistent, if that makes sense. And I think that's going to start with having confidence coming up against Gravitas and hopefully getting a win for them.
Okay, well, let's see how that goes. Now, before we do close out the show, we do have one final from the fans creating the content we've been asking for on the Twitter sphere. And that, of course, is Meredith Pavone. So Pabu's mum, PGG Nami, is settling in for the next banger with a bunch of ats there, watching us all on screen. And I think that was pre the PGG game. So I'm sure she had a great time watching that.
Did you get the reply from this one? Did we put that on broadcast next? Surely.
No, we did
she
not.
like 2 minutes later tweets an image of the cat asleep and saying short attention span.
Oh. Well, we
Me
can
too.
maybe get that one for the start of the show tomorrow so everyone can see it next to each other. Anyway, that will do us here on the DoorDash LCO for day number 10, day number 11 coming up tomorrow, and another extra excellent Super Week to follow. So, ladies and gentlemen, look after yourselves. We'll see you tomorrow, same time, same place here on the LCO channel. Goodbye.
Yeah, Riptail's going to do it. But the recontest through, and that's a very nice ultimate from Pabu. Mega Inferno Bomb across the top from Wei, who's still trying to dump damage over the wall, but he's just not having the impact. They'll start teleporting behind as Pentanet kick off the Dragon. That'll go the way of Pabu, so that's Soul already, but this might just be game over for Mammoth. Look at that combo from Pentanet. Pabu survives by the skin of his teeth, and Wei certainly will not have that luxury. An ace for Pentanet.
Now, Winterer needs to be careful now as well.
Mel's just going to throw out a rogue death sentence, and sometimes you got to give that a crack, but wow, Sway! Essentially 2v4 right now, and they seem pretty happy about it. Haymaker, and the showstopper back in the other direction. Liv does fall very low, but inside the stopwatch survives, and it's the Sway's show at the moment. He just continues to pile on the damage. Winterer has to go scurrying away, but really, what does it matter? He's dead.
Hovering of the jungler here, Max has to play this one out expertly and wait for his own jungler to make the play. Times it well.
Or does he?
Ooh.
The
That'll be
ignite.
one tick.
Oh, it does
Got him.
actually tick enough. I think it was a corrupting pot in there as well that helped out. Puma says thanks very much for the DoorDash delivery. That's 10 kills, 10, 2, and 7 right now for Puma. And you can bet he's going to get a couple more right here. This is the end of the game. This is Gravitas in their death throes, and Order have completed a
Difference between these teams towards Peace Claire.
Halo wants to get aggressive on top of Claire. There's always the possibility for a one-shot. That's what I'm talking about. And the threat of the Mega Inferno Bomb is lost. Peace are routed and they're trying to escape, but Claire's on the flank.